Chapter 171. After so many rounds of thunder roar zen, Lu Qing was also quite tired. His physical strength was fine, but his mind couldn't bear it anymore. Tightening and compressing specific muscles and controlling them until they exploded when colliding with the enemy was definitely not something that could be done easily. Not to mention that he had to punch and attack during the process. After this battle, Lu Qing estimated that his current limit was 10 consecutive strikes of thunder roar zen. He had more than enough strength but not enough heart. Because of this, he didn't try to seduce Yan Jike to stay in the locker room and whisper sweet nothings. Instead, he accepted her suggestion to come back early, take a nap, and go to study together in the evening. At this time, Kai Zhongming and others had not come back yet. Lu Qing was lying in bed, still excited and happy. He couldn't fall asleep quickly, so he picked up his phone and browsed his own fan forum. As soon as he opened it, he saw Eternal Nightfall rolling around and acting cute. It's a recording again. I'm going to die if I don't see Lu Qing again. Ah! Corresponding to her, Brahman also made a post and said seriously, I'm going to call Songqing TV station to complain. Well, shouldn't you call to give suggestions? Nye Chichi felt a little confused about the little girl's thinking. Brahman said with an angry emoji, Little Nightfall and I have already called to propose. They didn't listen. I'm going to complain. Eternal Nightfall quickly followed up with a reply, that's right. They even said in all seriousness, sorry, this is the broadcasting arrangement of our television station. Please pay attention to the recording and broadcasting time. Here, this broadcasting tone is really good. Ha 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 ha, I want to beat them to death. Lu Qing wanted to laugh. After browsing this post, he opened another one. He saw that Unparalleled Dragon King was taking refuge here. He said with a lingering fear, never reason with girls, especially two underage ones. Yeah, the generation gap is as deep as the Mariana Trench. Okamoto's fan shook hands with tears. But, seriously, how can you be sure that they are girls? Once they take off their pants, they may be thicker and longer than you, Manual Funny. In the past few days, they had made a series of efforts to persuade, comfort, and convince Eternal Nightfall and Brahman, but they had all failed miserably. Instead, they had been angrily rebuked by the two girls for dozens of streets. Sigh. Without the live broadcast, the number of fans I've worked so hard to increase has gone down again. Lu Qing sighed, exited the post and returned to the homepage. At this moment, he noticed a familiar ID appearing at the top of the post, Lu Qing's girlfriend. Cuckoo. Lu Qing was surprised and subconsciously looked at the title of the post. Video, Songqing Division Preliminaries, Lu Qing vs Pingqing Wang. Where did the video come from? Shocked and confused, he clicked on the post and found that Yan Jike only left a video and 3 words. You're welcome. Lu Qing was stunned and chose to play the video. Immediately, he saw himself walking up the ring step by step. Pingqing Wang had already positioned himself and made an inviting gesture. The whole video was shot from a relatively far distance, so it couldn't show the facial expressions and other details. But the cameraman's hands were steady, so the picture was quite clear. Sometimes, the cameraman even aimed at the big screen to make up for the shortcomings of the long-distance camera. The fierce battle was reproduced in a relatively complete way. Shot from the stands. Cuckoo got it so quickly. She must have specially asked Dirty Tong to shoot it. Lu Qing was surprised and vaguely guessed the truth. He remembered that yesterday he had run nearly 2 kilometers in order to shoot the video of Yan Jike's first battle in time. While he was wholeheartedly doing something for his lover, she was also wholeheartedly doing something for him. Lu Qing felt both joy and warmth. His heart was filled with an inexplicable feeling and indescribable satisfaction. He really wanted to run to Yan Jike and hug her tightly. This feeling was too good. Holding the phone, he smiled and turned over on the bed. Unable to hold back his emotions, he opened the contact list and selected Yenjika's phone number. In just a few seconds, a sweet and mechanical voice came into his ears. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is busy right now. Please try again later." Yenjika stood on the balcony, looking at the drizzle outside. Spring was in full bloom. "Hello, Mom, why did you suddenly call me?" She held the phone and pretended to be surprised. At the other end of the phone was a clear but mature voice. "You little girl, I'm your mother. Do I need a reason to call you when I miss you?" Yenjika chuckled and said, "I was thinking of you, Mom, who are busy every day. Besides, I just called you 2 days ago. No matter how busy I am, it's not as important as my daughter." The mature woman laughed and said, "I heard from your Uncle Sia that you have a boyfriend." Yenjika wanted to say no, but she didn't want to deny the boyfriend thing. Inexplicably, she was afraid that her words would come true, so she said in a spoiled manner, "Don't listen to him. It's all Uncle's fault for bringing Sia Tianke and the others here without even mentioning it. It made me super embarrassed. I couldn't stand it, so I asked my friends from the martial arts club for help." She subconsciously didn't say the words shield. "Why did your friends from the martial arts club go to Tiantong Taoist temple with you?" The mature woman pretended to ask casually. Yenjika had already prepared a draft in her mind. "To visit my cousin." The mature woman chuckled and said, "Isn't your cousin mildly autistic? How come there are friends who are willing to travel such a long distance to visit him?" "Mom, you don't understand. This is the battle friendship between men." Yenjika tried to make herself lively so that her mother wouldn't find anything strange. "He cooperated with my cousin and defeated an 8th pin Dan stage fighter by taking turns to fight him. They kind of appreciate each other. He's a strong fighter of professional 9th pin." Your cousin can only make friends on the martial path." The mature woman seemed to be relieved of her doubts and said, "Your dad and I don't approve of you dating in college, not because it's old-fashioned, but because we think that real love should only appear after you have experienced more, seen more, and broadened your vision. At that time, you can understand what kind of relationship you really want. Besides, have you forgotten your dream? Every time you tell us what you want to do in the future and what you plan to pursue, you are so beautiful that I can't help but be jealous. I always think that I can't let those bastards cheat our little princess away." Yenjika listened quietly with a smile on her face. Her dimples were shallow and contained warmth. She felt her mother's love from these words, so she didn't refute and just promised, "Mom, don't worry, I won't date casually." "Yes, I won't date casually. I am very serious, and I like to date very much." The phone call didn't go through. Lu Cheng was so tired that he fell into a deep sleep. After an hour, he woke up naturally. He picked up his phone and refreshed it, intending to see the replies in the video post. On the second floor, Eternal Nightfall sent a jumping emoji. "You're welcome. I'll just bow, 1 bow. Brahmin followed closely. 2 bows. Nye Chichi also said, 3 bows. Unparalleled Dragon King wiped his cold sweat and said, "Only a family return gift is left to play the morning music." After these few posts, they didn't reply for a long time. Obviously, they went to watch the video of the competition. "The feeling of a candid shot makes me feel like I'm watching an AV," said Eternal Nightfall with a funny emoji. To be honest, after only 2 weeks of not watching Lu Cheng's matches, I can't even recognize the person on the stage as him. He's much fiercer than before, much bolder and more powerful than before. After a series of sighs, Brahman laughed with arms akimbo. "Little Nightfall, you are getting more and more dirty. But that's not the point. The point is that my idol is more handsome, more handsome, more handsome." Important things must be said 3 times. He is so manly, love-struck emoji. Unparalleled Dragon King expressed his doubts. I don't understand. There are so many strange details in the competition. At this time, Road to the Arena, who had come in at some point, said, if I'm not wrong, Lu Qing has mastered Tremor Punch. Tremor Punch. No wonder. Unparalleled Dragon King sent an emoji of slapping its thigh. After only 2 weeks of not watching, he has become a living person and mastered Tremor Punch. This is an amazing martial art. Road to the Arena sent a funny emoji. Even if all the professional 9th pin fighters in the country were to be listed, Lu Qing, who has mastered Tremor Punch, would be among the top. He is only a little bit behind. If I were to fight with him again, I would definitely be beaten to a pulp within 3 punches. So it is Tremor Punch. Although I don't understand it very well, I feel that it is very powerful. Eternal Nightfall replied excitedly. After some discussion, Okamoto's fan said, come on, let's celebrate Lu Chang's mastery of Tremor Punch. I will continue to drive. Humph. You are not the driver. Unparalleled Dragon King said after cursing. From the video, the ID Lu Chang's girlfriend is a student of Songqing University. Yes. Lu Chang's girlfriend appeared and replied with an obedient sitting straight. Seeing this, Lu Qing felt happy and continued to scroll down. Really? Then what gossip do you know? Does my idol have a girlfriend? Brahmin asked curiously. Yes. Yenjika replied with a righteous emoji. Eternal Nightfall was also interested. Who? Do you have a picture? Is it his classmate? It's me. Look at my ID. Yenjika covered her mouth and laughed. I don't even know if you are a boy or a girl. Unparalleled Dragon King wiped his cold sweat again. Yenjika replied immediately. Of course it's a girl. A cute girl. When she said that, the others did not believe her. Only Eternal Nightfall said with a bright and piercing gaze, I will believe whatever you say. As long as you are a good undercover and often tell us about Lu Chang's situation. No, I have made up my mind. Dad. I'm your long-lost son. After a burst of laughter, Lu Chang's girlfriend didn't appear. Little Nightfall, he was scared away by your filth. Brahmin said with disdain. How am I filthy? Eternal Nightfall felt wronged. Isn't it filthy to call anyone your dad? Brahmin laughed. Seeing this, Lu Qing exited the forum and called Yenjika with a smile. He was a little proud of today's victory, but not arrogant. Even Ping Qingguang, who didn't have any good martial arts skills, could almost defeat him. What about those professional 9th pin fighters with inheritance, talent and strong support? On the way back, the 4 members of the Azure Dragon squad fell into a depressed atmosphere. Depression echoed in the silence. Suddenly, Deng Hua with a Mohican hairstyle said in a low voice, I have an idea. Chapter 172. What is it? Mo Zizong, the captain of Azure Dragon Squad, looked back at Deng Hua from the passenger seat. Lu Qing had mastered Tremor Punch, and Lin Ke was about to come back. No matter how he thought about it, he was sure to lose. What else could he do? Deng Hua touched his Mohican hairstyle, exhaled and said, we apply for a special competition format. Stool, are you stupid? We don't know how to make a formation. Zhu Tao, the bald tough guy with whiskers, looked at his companion as if he was an idiot. The special competition format was to apply for 3 people to fight at the same time with the excuse that one's own team was good at formations instead of fighting alone. The opponent could use formations to break through formations, or they could use 6 people to fight against formations. The Azure Dragon Squad was a combination of several dojos. Not to mention whether or not there was such a thing as a formation. Even if there was, the 4 different professional martial artists with different backgrounds would have mastered completely different things, so how could there be a formation? Su Zheng, who was in charge of driving, couldn't help but laugh and scold, "Stool, don't be so whimsical. Damn it, Songqing University Martial Arts Club must have taken the wrong medicine to participate in the preliminaries. Now we have to wait for next year." When they first formed the team, they were very confident and thought that no matter which group they were assigned to, they would be able to win. Who knew that Songqing University Martial Arts Club would come out halfway, and Pan Qingyun from Hongluo Martial Arts School was also a professional 9th pin fighter. Together with Jiang Guoxing and Fang Tong, they were not to be underestimated. This was a once-in-a-decade death group. Deng Hua had thought through the details and smiled. "We don't know how to make a formation, but the substitutes of Songqing University Martial Arts Club are very weak." "Hiss, you tell us in detail." Mo Zizong took a breath and vaguely grasped the key point. Deng Hua said with a smile, "We can't resist Lu Cheng's tremor punch, and we can't beat Lin Ke who is coming back. But we can barely be considered as strong professional 9th pin fighters. If we know the information in advance, we won't lose so easily, right? We have enough strength to hold them back for a while, right? For example, if you fight Lin Ke, you won't be killed in seconds, right? If you deliberately hold them back, you can at least hold on for 2 or 3 minutes, right? I'm quite confident about this." Mo Zizong nodded slightly and roughly understood Deng Hua's idea. Deng Hua glanced at the bald Zhu Tao and laughed. "Brother Zong, leave Lin Ke to me, and I'll deal with Lu Qing. The rest of Songqing University's martial artists are all amateurs. They barely have the strength of first pin. Do you have the confidence to defeat 4 amateur martial artists of second and third pin in a short time? Ants can bite an elephant to death." "I can only say that it's half and half," Zhu Tao answered cautiously. "Isn't this settled?" Deng Hua raised his voice and said, "After you deal with those amateur fighters, you can join us to besiege Lin Ke or Lu Qing. Do you think they can grow 3 heads and 6 arms? If they are impatient in the middle, they might even make mistakes. Stool is right. If we don't do this, we won't even have a 10% chance of winning. We can only hope that Lu Qing and Lin Ke don't perform well on the spot. But with the special competition system, we have at least a 50% chance of winning." Mo Zizong agreed happily. "Let's apply as soon as possible. It'll be hard to get approved if we're late." Once the special competition system was used, there would be a big mess in the ring. One referee was not enough, even if there was a competition supervisor. They had to make arrangements in advance. So the earlier they applied, the easier it would be to get approved. Of course, the Azure Dragon squad also thought that they had some connections to make the organizing committee believe in the formation. "All right." Zhu Tao and Su Jing shouted in unison, recovering their previous emotions and high fighting spirit. Yenjike closed the computer cover and was about to wash the clothes in the basin when she suddenly heard her phone vibrating. She picked it up and found that it was Qing calling. Unconsciously, she smiled and walked back to the balcony, closing the glass door that separated the inside from the outside. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is busy right now. Please try again later." Yenjike's eyes moved and she said clearly. How could Lu Qing not recognize his girlfriend's voice? He was immediately amused and laughed. "Which operator will say that the number is busy after a long time?" Yenjika smiled. "I'm just afraid that you're stupid. If I say, 'Sorry, the number you have dialed is busy right now,' you might believe me." Her light and lively tone affected Lu Qing, making him feel better. He smiled and said softly, "I saw the video you posted on the forum." Yenjika's dimples appeared and she felt a little shy. She raised her chin slightly and said, "I'm sorry, but I don't know what to say." "What are you talking about? I don't understand." The reason why she chose to upload the video to the forum instead of sending it to Lu Qing was because she was shy. She couldn't possibly tell her boyfriend that she had specially asked Dirty Tong to record a video for him so that he and his fans could see it in advance. That would be too embarrassing. Of course, if Lu Qing didn't check the forum in the afternoon, she was prepared to send the video to him without explaining anything and then say, "Come on, praise me." Lu Qing laughed again when he heard the girl's confused answer. His heart was even warmer. He asked, "How much did you pay?" Yenjike didn't deny it again. She leaned against the window sill in the living room and smiled. "A meal." After that, she said proudly, "I feel that IDs like Lu Cheng's XXX are going to be popular. A lot of them just now." "Pfft, what are they?" Lu Cheng asked happily and curiously. If they weren't talking on the phone, he would have sent a doting smile emoji. Yenjike pursed her lips and looked at the sky. She raised her voice and said, "I'm not telling you." After chatting happily for a while, she thought of something important. She took a breath and said, "Cheng, my mom may come over in a few days." Lu Cheng was shocked. Why is your mom coming all of a sudden?" Most men were instinctively afraid of mothers-in-law, just like facing Empress Dowager. "It's all because of Uncle Xia." Yenjike pushed all the responsibility to Xie Qingjin. Xie Tianke wasn't the only one who saw us holding hands that day. His dad also saw us. We didn't notice it and didn't remind him. When he visited my grandpa 2 days ago, he mentioned it casually. Then my mom knew about it. Fortunately, my brother covered for us and said that I asked for help because I was annoyed by Xie Tianke's pestering. After that, she silently opened her mouth and said to herself, "It's my cousin who said it, not me." Fortunately, Yenjike finished her words in one breath. Lu Cheng was not scared out of his wits. He said with lingering fear, "It's all my fault. I didn't want to waste the time with you. Will your mom really come over to patrol?" Hearing the first half of her boyfriend's words, Yenjike's 2 dimples quietly bloomed. She said in a serious tone, "Trust me. My mom is a very capable person. I even suspect that she's on her way to the airport." His explanation alone was definitely not enough to make his smart mom completely believe him. Phew. Lu Qing exhaled and said with some disappointment and reluctance, "Then we should keep a good distance these days." Yenjike gently bit her lower lip with her pearly white teeth. She thought for a while and said, "It's not that serious. As long as we pay attention to the 3 sections from the martial arts arena to the teaching area, from the water conference hall to the long bridge, and from the entrance of the pedestrian street to my dormitory, we won't be afraid. My mom can't just wander around the campus like a headless fly, right?" "You're right. There are so many people in the cafeteria during mealtime. There are so many tables in the cafeteria. It's very unlikely that she'll see us." Lu Qing cheered up and happily agreed. "But, how did you determine these 3 sections?" "Deducing." Yenjike suddenly blushed, delicate and beautiful. Just because of this, Dirty Tong laughed at her for having abnormal brain circuits. After a few words on this topic, she asked a little worriedly, "Qing, are you a little unhappy? Do you feel that we have to be sneaky and hide?" Lu Qing said sincerely, "No. In fact, I feel a little guilty. I feel that I'm not good enough for you. If I really want to meet your mom now, I don't have the courage. I'm not confident that I'll leave a bad impression on your mom. If the first impression is bad, it'll be very difficult to turn it around. There will be more resistance when we're together in the future. I've been working hard to improve myself. I hope to be good enough to meet your mom and dad when I'm ready. I want to let them feel that I'm very reliable at first and that they can entrust their daughter to me without worry. Besides, I know that I confessed too early and too suddenly. Until now, you still can't say that you've completely adapted and accepted it. If there's more external pressure, I'm afraid you'll feel that this relationship is too tiring, too troublesome, and too restrictive. So, it's not bad to be sneaky now. Quietly listening to Lu Cheng's somewhat messy and somewhat inarticulate explanation, Yanjika suddenly felt that Lu Cheng valued and slightly clumsy love from the bottom of his heart. Her heart warmed and her eyes turned red. She said in a low voice, "Cheng, actually, I like you very much already." "What?" Lu Cheng asked blankly. Yanjika gently bit her pink lips and said with a faint smile, "Nothing, just a shout. As for the fact that I like you very much, I'll tell you in the future when I have the chance. Mother-in-law is coming." Lu Cheng was a little dazed when he put down the phone. He felt that he should do something, but after careful consideration, he thought that not doing anything was the best response. The more he did, the more likely he would make mistakes and be found out. Sigh, I can't believe that I'm only 19 years old and I'm already experiencing the majesty of a mother-in-law. He laughed at himself. He was a little puzzled by his classmates who fell in love early in middle school or high school. What kind of feelings did they have when facing their mother-in-law? Or could it be that they never met her? After spending some time to calm down, he casually browsed the forum. Suddenly, he saw that Road to the Arena and Unparalleled Dragon King were discussing his master in the order of himself, Songqing University Martial Arts Club, coach. Old Dragon, you're the humanoid database I admire the most. Do you know the background of Coach Shi of Songqing University Martial Arts Club? Road to the Arena asked curiously. I've asked around and searched, but I couldn't find anything related to him. Logically speaking, with the Ice Sect inheritance, surname, and suspected physical invulnerability, it should be easy to find him. Unparalleled Dragon King sent a bitter smile emoji. I've searched, but I still can't find anything. Even on the list of preliminaries official website, his name is also Coach Shi. I'm beginning to suspect that his real name is Coach Shi. However, surname Shi and Ice Sect inheritance, I have a feeling that he has something to do with Shi Yuejian of Wuyue Club. Of course, he could also be using a fake surname. Chapter 173. Shi Yuejian. Lu Cheng chewed on the name. He was no stranger to this name. As a good youth in the internet age, he had tried to search for his master's full name to learn more about him. However, the result was similar to that of Unparalleled Dragon King and Road to the Arena. Unique skills of the Ice Sect and Shi could only identify Shi Yuejian, a mighty one with physical invulnerability from Wuyue Club. Lu Cheng strongly suspected that this was the daughter of Geezer Shi, his senior sister. However, he was not completely sure. After all, who knew if his master's surname was really a Shi? Why did he have to be so mysterious? Lu Cheng complained. However, when he remembered that Geezer Shi had a close relationship with the military, he felt relieved. Unparalleled Dragon King continued his analysis. Judging from Coach Shi's appearance and age, he should be a master in the beginning stage of professional competitions. There was no internet back then, and TV broadcasting was not developed. The remaining videos of his matches today are all famous battles. Anyway, I don't remember any mighty one like him. I even suspect that he didn't fight much in the challenge tournament. Are you saying that he grew up through life and death battles? Road to the Arena was obviously shocked. It's just a suspicion. However, in the era of professional competitions and title matches, when many areas were in turmoil, it's not strange for him to take the path of life and death battles, Unparalleled Dragon King explained. Reading this, Lu Cheng suddenly remembered something Geezer Shi had once said. Before he reached the physical invulnerability stage, he had taken an adventure in the war-torn zones and killed a strong enemy with the Thunder Roar Zen. This was very consistent with Unparalleled Dragon King's inference. Lu Cheng scrolled down but there was no more information. He exited the forum and talked to Yan Zhike about this matter while waiting for dinner. The next morning, by the Weishui Lake. In high spirits, Lu Qing came to the usual place and practiced the yin-yang stance one by one according to the usual order. However, compared to the past, he reduced the number of times he practiced the 24 blizzard strikes and other martial arts that he had long mastered so as to spare more time to further master the thunder roar Zen and repeatedly ponder the essence of the visualization diagram. The ice field was boundless, the snow was boundless, and the cold wind was howling. It was bone-chilling. Lu Qing studied the visualization diagram a few times. He closed his eyes and concentrated his spirit and qi. Once again, he sketched the image of the cold and frozen land in his mind. He combined it with the feeling of winter he had experienced in the past to make the image as realistic as possible. How cold was it? It was cold to wear a cotton sweater, a thick sweater, and a down jacket. How piercing was the wind? It was bone-piercing, as if it was a knife. Thoughts flashed through his mind, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't combine his daily experience with the images he visualized. Gradually, those thoughts rose and fell one after another, gradually becoming chaotic. He could no longer control his mind and had no choice but to withdraw from the concealment state. "You're too impatient today." Geezer sure chuckled. "Yeah." Lu Qing exhaled and responded in a low voice. He had also noticed his own problem just now. He was too impatient and not relaxed enough. It was obviously something difficult to get started with. He should have been in a leisurely mood, quietly comprehending it, and not in a hurry for success. However, he always wanted to achieve it in one go, so it was counterproductive. As for why he suddenly became impatient, it was because of the inexplicable pressure in his heart. 'Cause mother was coming. Mother-in-law was coming. After setting a goal for his college career at Tiantong Taoist Temple, his path was clear and he had more motivation to work hard. However, since there were still 3.5 years to go, the urgency and pressure weren't that serious. But now, suddenly, the Empress Dowager was coming. Even if he didn't have to face it himself, the goal seemed to be in front of him all of a sudden. It was clear that he could reach out and touch it, constantly reminding himself. Therefore, it was inevitable that he wanted to prove something, which added to his impatience. Huff. He breathed in the fresh air and calmed his mind. He didn't panic and re-entered the state of meditation. How can I grasp the essence and charm of the visualization diagram? Can I only rely on observation and experience every day and accumulate it bit by bit? I wonder if using a natural environment similar to the visualization diagram can speed up the process of grasping it. However, only a 1 in a million genius or mighty ones with extremely deep accumulation can comprehend nature. Can I do it? Even if I can, I don't have the time. Where can I find the time and money to go to the North Pole or the South Pole? Can I simplify it and go to places like the Ice Paradise or the Alpine Ski Resort? All kinds of ideas flashed in Lu Cheng's mind. He pondered whether using nature to assist his visualization would work, and at the same time, he considered a suitable location. Considering my status as a student and the fact that my personal savings have plummeted after the date gift, this method doesn't seem realistic. At this moment, Lu Cheng's eyes flashed. He thought of something. He thought of something that could replace the natural environment for his comprehension. Why am I so stupid? He scolded himself in his mind. If there was a ready-made sense of ice to assist him, why would he ask for external help? The Jin Dan in his body is half fire and half ice. I can totally calm my spirit and comprehend the ice in the Jin Dan. Suddenly, Lu Cheng was enlightened. He felt that everything in front of him had become clear and refreshing. This is definitely a little dangerous. But isn't my master right beside me? He put his thoughts into action. He calmed his excitement and concealed his spirit and qi again. This time, he didn't draw the frozen sky diagram. Instead, he slowly entered the state of inward vision, allowing the Jin Dan in his lower abdomen to enlarge inch by inch in front of his eyes. The ice crystals were like stars, translucent and dreamy. They slowly rotated around scorching flames of different colors, and reflected their light, making themselves resplendent and brilliant. Gradually, Lu Qing seemed to be in a vast and boundless starry sky. He couldn't tell up from down, left from right, and couldn't see the ends of the world. He carefully approached a star and enlarged it in front of his eyes, allowing the perfect crystal that was constantly refracting light to touch him. In an instant, Lu Qing felt as if his spirit and body had been frozen. In front of him was a white, lifeless expanse of whiteness. In his ears was the whistling of the icy wind between heaven and earth. Around him was an extremely low temperature that froze the flames and movement. In just 2 or 3 seconds, his spirit was bounced back. He could only see the nebula in his lower abdomen expanding and contracting, dazzling and enchanting. The wonderful feeling just now was deeply engraved in his mind. At this time, Lu Qing suddenly understood that if he could experience the visualization diagram a few more times, he should be able to grasp the indescribable essence and charm with the help of the feeling just now. He wanted to try immediately, but he was unusually sleepy. His spirit seemed to have become sluggish. The few seconds just now consumed a lot of energy. He had no choice but to open his eyes again and shake his head. If you're too tired, don't try in a hurry. Geyser calmly looked at him and reminded him. Yes, master. Lu Qing obeyed. He put away his stance and began to run circles around the lake to complete his morning training. I didn't expect the method of perceiving the Jin Dan to actually work. While running, he thought joyfully. He always felt that the conception of the Jin Dan contained many things that were worth exploring. It seemed to hide something that could only be understood. Looking at his back, Geyser smiled slightly and said, "Hey, how can you get started with the visualization diagram so quickly?" But this little rascal finally has a moment of impatience. Otherwise, this old man would have thought that he was no longer a young man. After the special training on Sunday morning, Lu Qing didn't leave the martial arts arena with Yan Zhike. Instead, he pulled Kai Zhongming and followed the girl and Guo Qing in front of him. "Cheng, tell us the truth. What did you do wrong?" Talker was so witty that he began to interrogate him with a smile. There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. Lu Qing rolled his eyes at him and said, "Her mother is on the way to visit her." "So it's your mother-in-law?" Xiao Ming suddenly realized. Lu Qing was moved and asked curiously, "Hey, Talker, have you ever faced a mother-in-law?" Kai Zhongming clicked his tongue and said, "You want to learn from my experience. But I've never seen a mother-in-law before. I was stopped by father-in-law once." "How did you get blocked?" Lu Qing gossiped and wanted to learn from him. Kai Zhongming sighed and said, "It was our first love in high school. It was stormy that day. Her mother was on a business trip and her father was working overtime. She was left alone at home and was a little scared. I rushed over to accompany her in the rain. You know, dry wood is burning hot, you know. But her father was worried about her and specially came back. He saw a strange man's shoes at the door and blocked me in her room. If it weren't for my good skills at that time, I would have been chopped to death by her father." Sigh, then she transferred to another school, which made me sad for a long time. There was a little fear and regret in his tone. Lu Qing didn't say anything to hurt him. Instead, he patted his shoulder and said, "Casanova, I believe that you have a lot of setbacks in love." After lunch, Lu Qing went back to the dormitory and went to the school bus station. After a few minutes, Yan Zhike, who was dressed in youthful clothes, also came. But she didn't greet him and just went to the end of the line. "Do you feel like you're meeting an underground gang?" Lu Qing took the initiative to send a message with a snicker to show that he was emotionally stable. Yan Zhike lowered her head and replied quickly, "If you're an underground gang, you won't survive more than 3 episodes. You keep looking at me. There's such a beautiful and cute girl here. Which guy wouldn't look at her secretly? I'll be found out if I don't look at her, right? Lu Qing said with a smirk and took the opportunity to compliment her. Because she was worried that they would meet her mother on the school bus, Yenjika requested to move separately. They were only a few steps away from each other and chatted on their phones. Time passed quickly and a school bus came. The door opened and passengers got off. My mother is not here. Yenjika cheered and said, save me a seat later. After getting on the bus, they finally didn't have to worry about the seats next to each other. The underground gang finally met. Yenjika said with a smile. Lu Qing didn't say anything and extended his right hand with a smile. Yenjika pursed her lips and followed suit with her left hand. In silence, their skin touched and their fingers intertwined again. Looking at this scene fondly, they slowly leaned against each other. After arriving at the old campus, they separated again and took a long detour. They left the school through the small north gate and took a bus to Songqing Ocean Aquarium. Looking at the magnificent entrance, Lu Qing suddenly felt a little nervous. Because he didn't know the order of the tour was limited to what he found on the internet, and the introduction of marine life he had memorized was messy. If he wasn't familiar with the process, he would definitely forget a lot of it. He held Yenjika's hand and walked slowly to the ticket office. While chatting, he quickly recalled the content he had memorized. Starfish, after tearing, each piece could become a new starfish. Sea urchins, especially timid. Jellyfish, very beautiful but also very dangerous. Devilfish, looking like a bat in the sea. Angelfish, with tassels, swimming like a dance. Just as he was about to finish a part of his memory, Yenjika's phone suddenly rang. She looked at it and quickly made a shoved gesture to Lu Qing. Mom! She shouted crisply. A mature female voice came from the other side of the phone. Ko, you're not in the dormitory. Hearing Yenjika's address, Lu Qing felt nervous and disappointed. Well, no need to relive it. Besides, we still have many weekends in the future. In the future, there will be plenty of opportunities to come here again and make up for this date. To be honest, I feel more sorry for you. You just came here and you have to rush back. If I had known, I would have endured and pushed this matter to next week. There will be many weekends in the future. Yenjika rolled her eyes, revealing her dimples. She said lightly, why are you blaming yourself? She's my mother, not yours. While they were talking, the online car arrived on time and sent them to the old campus of Songqing University. Lu Qing and Yenjika discussed and decided to take separate cars to avoid bumping into each other because they were worried that their mother-in-law would be waiting at the school bus station in the new campus. Yenjika found a seat by the window, holding her backpack and looking at her boyfriend waving outside. She unconsciously showed a smile on her face and slightly pursed her lips. She looked calm. When the school bus started to move, she took out her mobile phone and typed quickly. She sent a striving to be strong emoji and said, everything will be fine after this afternoon. Lu Qing quickly replied with a snicker emoji. At that time, we can loudly sing, the sky in the liberated area is bright and sunny. Pfft. Yenjika couldn't help but laugh, like a flower in full bloom. The boy next to her almost couldn't move his eyes away. But she didn't pay attention to this at all. Her eyes were only focused on the phone screen. She sent a stunned emoji and said, wow, are you talking bad about my mother? After replying to this message, she found that Li Liantong, Zhong Yanru and Shi Xiangyang had all sent her messages. Although the language was different, the content was basically the same. For example, come back quickly, I can't handle it alone. The Empress Dowager is full of aura. I'm trembling in fear. I dare not, I dare not. I dare not talk bad about my mother-in-law. Lu Qing replied to Yenjika's message with a shocked emoji. Bah, who's your mother-in-law? Yenjika sent a curse emoji. Lu Qing stood at the waiting area with a smile on his face. He held his mobile phone like an internet addict and kept typing on the screen keyboard. After a while, he felt something in his heart. With his sharp senses, he felt some kind of gaze. He turned his head abruptly and looked in the direction of the strange gaze. He saw a few girls looking at him, whispering to each other and laughing in a low voice. One of them seemed to be pointing the camera of her mobile phone at him. What's going on? Lu Qing started to have second thoughts. When they noticed that he was looking at them, the girls immediately stopped talking and stood up straight, acting like they were just passers-by. When Lu Qing turned his head and looked at the school bus that had arrived at the departure point, he heard the uncontrollable laughter from the other side. What's wrong with my face? What's wrong with my dress? He was puzzled. While boarding the school bus and finding a good seat, he used his mobile phone screen as a mirror to look at his face. However, he found nothing. When the school bus was full and was about to start, Lu Qing suddenly thought of a possibility. He opened the browser and logged into the school forum. In the gossip section, he found a new post. I seem to have met Lu Qing from the martial arts club. He clicked in and immediately saw himself standing at the waiting area, chatting with a silly smile on his mobile phone. Phew. Lu Qing exhaled and felt a little complacent. I'm considered to be quite a celebrity in school. Because of Li Liantong's information, Yenjika was not surprised to see her mother waiting for her at the ticket office when she got off the school bus. Her mother wore her hair in a bun and light makeup. She wore a woman's white blouse, a black suit, and a pair of 5-centimeter high heels, which highlighted her capable and mature business style. Her eyes were similar to Yenjika's, but her features were not as delicate as her daughter's. Her eyebrows were too sharp, and her nose was not high enough. She looked more heroic and imposing. Mom, why are you wearing this? I was thinking of dressing up like a sister and going around the campus. Yenjika smiled and walked up to her. She held her mother's hand and said coquettishly. Then she nodded to the tall woman next to her who was also dressed in a suit. Hello, Aunt Lu. I feel that you are getting stronger and stronger. Aunt Lu was her mother's assistant and bodyguard. She was the daughter of her grandfather's eldest disciple and had a cultivation of professional seventh pin of the dance stage. Ku is getting better at talking. Lu Xiaolin replied with a smile. Ji Mingyu patted her daughter's hand affectionately and said, I just finished a business deal and came here from Qinyang. How can I have time to change? Besides, I'm already so old. How can I dress up like a sister? While talking, she looked at the students who were getting off the school bus. Of course not, you look like you are in your early 30s with jeans, white sneakers, and a loose sweater. Yenjika said with a smile. She held her mother's hand and walked away. Then she snorted and said, Mom, are you worried about me? So you came here to patrol. She called yesterday to ask about her boyfriend and came here today. If she pretended not to think about it, she would feel guilty. Ji Mingyu let her daughter take her to the dormitory and laughed. I'm worried about myself. Ha! Yenjika looked at her mother blankly. What did she mean? You've been like me since you were a child. Ji Mingyu said with a smile, and I lied to your grandparents many times for your father. So I thought that if my Ku really likes a boy, she would be willing to lie to us for him. So I thought I might as well come and have a look. If there is such a boy, I should at least know what kind of person he is, right? Yenjika felt guilty. Was it true that no one knew her daughter better than her mother? For a moment, she even wanted to tell the truth. But in the end, she decided to be cautious. She planned to take Qing to meet her parents when she was confident. I thought you came because you missed me. She said coquettishly and changed the topic. Ji Mingyu turned to look at her daughter and said with a smile, You look much better than you did during the spring festival. Of course. I train every day. My body is in good shape. Yenjika deliberately clenched her fists and bent her elbows to show her muscles. And I just participated in a challenge tournament last week. I did very well and defeated an opponent of amateur first pin. I didn't tell you before because I wanted to wait for the video to come out so you could see it immediately. After the edited video, there would be no flirting with each other. Ji Mingyu was a little surprised. Then you're going to participate in the next amateur ranking event. Which pin are you going to register for? Second pin. Yenjika answered proudly. Ji Mingyu nodded slightly and suggested, the special training of the martial arts club is very helpful for you. Since your cousin is here, why don't I treat all the members to a meal? We can also meet the boy who pretended to be your boyfriend the other day. Yenjika was so scared that her heart almost skipped a beat. She hurriedly said, Why do you want to meet him? It's so embarrassing. Empress Dowager is so troublesome. Chapter 175. Ji Mingyu smiled and said, What's there to be embarrassed about? It's not like I'm treating him alone. Since my daughter has troubled him, I'll go and thank him when I treat all the members of the special training group. Is that okay? No problem, no problem. This is a big problem. Yenjika felt a headache coming. She racked her brains and said, But we all have activities on the weekend. How can we get together so easily? Besides, Mom, aren't you going to treat my roommates to dinner? Yes, I'll treat your roommates tonight, and invite the members of the martial arts club tomorrow at noon. You'll have just finished your special training, so you can find them. Ji Mingyu looked at her daughter with a smile. Her plan was flawless. As for the accommodation, Songqing was so big that they could find a good hotel. Yenjika was speechless for a moment. She felt that she was still too inexperienced in front of her mother. She restrained her panic, depression, and self-abandonment and looked up. Well, I'll mention it to them during the special training tomorrow. If she objected again, her mother would see through her. It was just a meal. What was there to be afraid of? She told Ah Qing, senior sister Lin, and the others to make Qing act as if nothing had happened. Everything should be fine. After she answered, Lu Xiaolin, who had been silent, suddenly said, Junior uncle, you have plans tomorrow. Qin Yang has to attend the signing ceremony. She was the daughter of Ji Mingyu's big brother, so she called Ji Mingyu junior uncle. However, they were only 5 years apart in age, and she was married to a family friend of the Yen family, so Yenjika had to call her aunt. Look at my bad memory. Ji Mingyu patted her forehead and said regretfully, I can't treat the members of the martial arts club to dinner. No need to feel sorry. Yenjika exhaled silently. Then she suddenly realized that if she kept finding excuses to stop this, it would most likely become a reality. She would never mention the signing ceremony. Mom, you're so cunning. You can wait until next time. Anyway, I haven't told them yet. Mom, since you're so concerned about my teammates in the martial arts club, do you know anything about our coach? She asked, changing the topic. Cheng had always been curious about this. Ji Mingyu chuckled and said, I asked your grandfather, and he only replied with one sentence, an old guy. This old guy seems to be a master of physical invulnerability of the same generation as Grandpa. But Coach sure doesn't seem to have a good relationship with Grandpa. Yenjika thought to herself. She put the previous trick behind her and adjusted her mood. Then she took her mother and Aunt Lu to walk around the campus and chat. Back in the dormitory, Lu Qing put his phone aside and waited for Yenjika's good news. He didn't join Kai Zhongming and Zhao Chong in their game. Instead, he took out his textbook, calmed down, and started to review what he had learned before. The amount of knowledge in each class in university was 10 times more than in high school. It was common for students to finish dozens of pages of teaching materials in a single class. Just by listening in class and doing homework after class, students who were not gifted could only grasp the basic knowledge and pass the exam. Therefore, this placed a higher requirement on students' ability to study independently. If they didn't know how to read by themselves, consolidate their knowledge, spread their knowledge, and search for relevant materials by themselves, their grades would get worse and worse. Lu Qing was busy with martial arts training. Classes filled up his afternoon and evening, and he only had time to study with Yan Jike on weekends. He didn't have a good grasp of most of the knowledge. Now that he opened the book, he learned something new from every page. While he was engrossed in studying, the sky turned dark. Suddenly, his phone buzzed and vibrated strongly. A message from Ko. Lu Qing was delighted and put down the pen in his hand. But he didn't dare to hold too much hope, because similar situations had happened before. They were all spam messages or replies from Jiang Fei and Qin Qili. He picked up his phone and saw the latest message on the screen without unlocking it. Yan Jike sent a firecracker emoji. I've unlocked it. Mother-in-law's inspection is over. Lu Qing felt relieved and beamed. He unlocked the screen and replied quickly, then can I invite my little fairy to take a walk tonight? Yan Jike stood at the bus stop and watched her mother and Auntie Lu leave the east gate on the bus. She had the urge to burst into tears. How tiring. But Mom left a little too easily, didn't she? She trusted me after probing a little. Or was it because she didn't have many doubts in the first place, and it was just along the way? In doubt and exhaustion, she took out her phone. When she saw the reply, a faint smile bloomed on her face again. She was relaxed and happy again. Okay, but let's wait for another hour. I'm afraid that Queen Mother will come back and catch us by surprise. My little fairy was scared by my mother-in-law. Seeing this message, Lu Qing felt sorry for her and found it funny. Another hour is just right. I haven't had my dinner yet. The moon hung high above the willows. When it was dark, Lu Qing waited for Yan Jike to come out of the dormitory. He immediately went up to her and held her hand, their fingers intertwined tightly. Let's go for a walk by the lake, he suggested with a smile. There were too many people around. Yan Jike rolled her eyes at him. Her eyes were shining like stars. She pursed her lips and said, You can't be naughty. In the middle of the night. That's how I lost my first kiss. Lu Qing answered with a straight face, I promise I won't be naughty. Lu Qing was not a fool. He understood her tone and guessed that the girl was moved. He smiled and said, I heard you say you wanted to kiss. Bah! Shameless. Pervert. Yan Jike spat and looked to the side with a red face. But when Lu Qing grabbed her hand and pulled her toward him, she immediately fell down softly as if she had lost her bones. Lu Qing had no experience, but how to chase after beauty was ingrained in his instinct. At this moment, he completely forgot about the surrounding environment and the loss and tension during the day. After a long time, she pushed him away and struggled to get out. Her lips were red and watery with a hint of silver. Then, she buried her red face in his shoulder and gasped for air as she said, Pervert, pervert, big pervert. Her right hand gently and continuously beat Lu Qing's back. Lu Qing seemed to have forgotten to breathe just now. Now he was gasping for air and was in a good mood. He said in high spirits, If that's the case, all husbands and boyfriends are big perverts. I'm proud of my perverted girlfriend. Humph, I don't care. You're the number one big pervert. Yan Jike answered shyly. Suddenly, she asked in confusion, What's bothering me? Well. His mind was working quickly to find an excuse. Yenjika felt her eyes were burning. She turned her head abruptly and said shyly and angrily, "Rogue. I won't play kisses with you anymore." Lu Qing smiled awkwardly and held the girl in his arms again. He explained seriously, "If I didn't have such a reaction, you would be worried." "Humph, you're a big pervert anyway." Yenjika did not struggle and answered, indignantly. Lu Qing recovered and was no longer embarrassed. He held the girl in his arms, listened to her coquettishly, smelled her fragrance, and savored the sweetness in her mouth. He wished he could shout loudly to vent his joy. With the arrival of the Empress Dowager, the relationship between the two seemed to be closer in the following week. Lu Qing was able to successfully lure Yenjika into a deep kiss from time to time. He was so happy every day. His cultivation became even more assiduous, and his state of mind was no longer impatient. He calmed down again. After comprehending the frost concept of the Jin Dan twice, he was only one step away from grasping the essence and charm of the visualization diagram. This was slower than he expected, but it was still within the normal range. In the blink of an eye, it was Saturday morning. After finishing his morning training, he accompanied Yenjika and others to the Songqing Martial Arts Club. This was the first annual amateur ranking event. The Songqing Martial Arts Club was very large. It was divided into several halls and surrounded by a circle of shops for the martial artists and spectators. "What should I do? I'm a little nervous." Yenjika held Lu Cheng's hand and said pitifully. Lu Cheng comforted her. "Don't be afraid. The competitors of second pin are all fighters of amateur third pin. You have a big advantage." There was a cafe dozens of meters away from them. From its floor-to-ceiling window, they could see the entrance of the martial arts club. Beside the floor-to-ceiling window, Ji Mingyu in a black business suit was quietly watching the couple holding hands with a cup of coffee. Chapter 176. At the entrance of the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium, Lu Qing and the others bumped fists and parted ways. Gui Qing had only practiced mountain-moving fist for a month, so she didn't dare to register for the amateur third pin competition with Lin Hua. Instead, she, Li Xiaowen, Jiang Fuxing and Wu Meng went to the number 3 hall, where the ranking event of amateur fourth pin was held. Sun Jian and Li Mao set their sights on the amateur second pin, so they went to the number 2 hall with Yenjika, who was a little riskier to register for the amateur second pin. Kai Zhongming didn't come this time. Lu Qing picked up the foundation he had left behind and didn't have any hope of improving his rank. Hall number 2 was about the same size as Songqing University's martial arts stadium. Most of the people coming and going were fighters and friends. There were no real audience. Even so, according to Lu Cheng's observation, there were at least thousands of people here. After waiting in line to get her group and match arrangement, Yenjika wrinkled her delicate nose and showed her sweet dimples. Not bad. Only 5 fighters. The number of fighters of amateur second pin had been announced on the official website. There were 439 fighters in Songqing. Usually, most fighters of amateur ranking event were of 9th pin and 8th pin. Most of the fighters in the hundreds of martial arts clubs and gyms in and around Songqing were aiming for these 2 ranks. For them, most of them had their own jobs or were still in middle school or high school, so the time they had to train was quite limited. If they didn't have any talent, they would spend their entire lives strengthening their bodies, maintaining their figure, and being proficient in martial arts. If they were able to obtain the 2 grades of entry, they would be able to brag about it to their friends and family. At critical moments, they could even use it to scare thieves and hooligans, like heroes protecting beauties. Because of this, the ranking event for these 2 ranks was not held in the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium. Instead, it was held in different areas of the county and some schools, so that the quota would be distributed to different people. Although there were a lot of fighters of amateur 8th pin, not many of them had the confidence to sign up for amateur 7th pin. The number of fighters started to drop sharply. From rank 7 to rank 4, it was very difficult for a martial artist who did not persevere in training or have some talent to stand out. The gym could no longer help students reach this level. Only the most elite students in every martial arts dojo had the ambition to make a breakthrough. Kai Zhongming belonged to this category. He had some talent, but he did not put in enough effort. These 4 levels of competition were held in Hall 3 and Hall 4 respectively. Logically speaking, there should be fewer applicants for rank 4 and above. After all, only martial artists with a little talent who insisted on daily training were qualified to set their sights on this. In most of the martial arts dojos, they could already be listed as disciples. However, this was not the case in reality, because the martial artists who were initially distributed to various martial arts schools and were accepted as disciples by various sects and forces would participate from this stage onwards. Among them, the most outstanding few aimed to enter the Dan stage and reach professional 8th pin. Those who could be considered outstanding would be professional 9th pin at the beginning. Those who were above average would aim for amateur 1st pin. Those who were below average would aim for amateur 2nd pin. Those who were not outstanding would at least aim for amateur 3rd pin. Every year, many students from several martial arts schools in Songqing participated in this event, and the number of applicants for the amateur 3rd pin had skyrocketed. However, they would not affect the local martial arts environment too much. Usually, after graduation, they would go where they wanted to go. Some would join the army, some would join the police force, some would become employees of the security companies affiliated with the major forces, and so on. The number of applicants for 439 amateur 2nd pin was slightly higher than in previous years, but it was still within a reasonable range. However, compared to the number of amateur 3rd pin fighters, it was still a small part. After all, after reaching amateur 3rd pin, some would age and their physical condition would begin to deteriorate. Some would be satisfied and stop pursuing further progress. Some would have their training time greatly reduced due to job changes or university graduation. It was not easy for them to maintain their original level. Some might feel that they were still lacking and wait for the future. The quota for the ranking event this time was 40 people of amateur 2nd pin, which was less than 10%. They were divided into 80 groups, with 5 or 6 people in each group. They would compete in a single cycle. If there were 2 people with the same record, they would compete against each other. If there were 3 people with the same record, they would start all over again. After the competition, the 80 fighters would draw lots to fight. The loser would be eliminated and the winner would be determined as amateur 2nd pin. In other words, a fighter would have to fight at least 5 matches to be determined. Moreover, all the matches would be held on weekends, which was also a great test of physical strength. Lu Qing took the paper from his girlfriend's hand and read it carefully. He smiled and said, "Chen Jun from Songhua Martial Arts School, this was Yan Jika's opponent this morning. After that, she would fight at 3 o'clock p.m., 7 o'clock p.m., and the next morning. If there was one, she could draw lots in the afternoon for the knockout match to determine her level. The knockout match didn't have to start after all the groups had fought. It could start as long as there were more than 20 groups. Chen Jun was an amateur 3rd pin fighter. He hadn't participated in any preliminaries and had only participated in some amateur challenge tournaments. It was difficult to find his fighting videos on the internet. However, after knowing that he was a disciple of Songhua Martial Arts School, Lu Qing could naturally find videos of his martial arts skills to give Yan Jika a direct impression. Yan Jika smiled while watching her boyfriend busy himself. She was also searching for videos. They leaned against the edge of the stands and whispered to each other, seizing the time to analyze the characteristics of those martial arts skills. Sun Jian and Li Mao, who could only study by themselves, were very envious. At 9 o'clock p.m., the group of friends and relatives retreated to the upper stand so that the organizer could better maintain order. The situation of the venue was similar to that of the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament. There were 4 standard arenas around the center. Lu Qing knew that his girlfriend's match would start at 10 p.m. Seeing her sitting down at the edge of the arena, he sent a smiley emoji and said, "Don't think too much. Let's continue to discuss your opponent's martial arts skills. But first, I'll buy you some fruits and energy drinks." He was quite confident in Yan Jike's martial arts level since he had been her training partner every day. "Good, very careful. I'll give you a like," Yan Jike said with a smirk. After exiting hall number 2, Lu Qing chatted with the girl while he found a nearby fruit shop. He bought a lot of things and finally found a small supermarket to stock up on a few energy drinks. Even though it was a given that he valued his girlfriend over his friends, he couldn't be too obvious about it. He still had to prepare some for senior son Jian and the others. Carrying these things, Lu Qing walked back to the second hall with light steps. He chose a position where he could see Yan Jike from the best angle. He saw that many men around her were secretly looking at her, but she was focused on replying to his messages without any distractions. Soon, it was 10 p.m. Yan Jike stood up and walked to the corresponding arena. Her beauty, figure, and temperament attracted enough attention. "Hee, such a good girl is mine." Lu Qing looked at this scene with a little complacency and happiness. At this moment, he saw 2 figures walking towards him from the corner of his eyes. One stopped not far away, and the other was still approaching. There was no hidden meaning in his words. Subconsciously, he sized him up. With this look, his heart suddenly thumped, and he had a bad premonition. It was a woman who looked less than 40 years old. Her hair was tied up in a bun. She had an elegant temperament and delicate facial features. She looked like she came from Jiangnan, but her eyebrows were relatively sharp, which made her look more heroic. But this was not the point. The point was that Lu Qing vaguely felt that she looked a little like his girlfriend. Could it be so coincidental? Didn't she already patrol? Didn't she go back long ago? While Lu Qing was guessing in panic, a mature woman in a black business suit stopped in front of him and smiled. "Are you Lu Qing?" Yes." Lu Qing told himself to calm down. Ji Mingyu smiled faintly and straightforwardly introduced herself. "Hello, I'm Ku's mother." There was a loud boom. Lu Qing felt that his brain was going to explode. She is really the Empress Dowager. She really came back to kill me. And she came back after Ku and I thought everything was over. Calm down, calm down. She didn't catch Ku and me. Lu Qing took a deep breath and glanced at Yan Jike, who was in the middle of the conversation. He hurriedly stood up and said with a smile, "Hello, Auntie. Judging from your reaction, you are indeed my Ku's boyfriend." Ji Mingyu chuckled. Lu Qing was dumbfounded. He finally understood why Yan Jike said he would be exposed in 3 minutes in front of her mother. Am I acting too nervous? In fact, no matter how calm you look, I can be sure that I saw you and Ku come in hand. Ji Mingyu said with a smile. She sat next to Lu Qing and looked at her daughter in the arena. Lu Qing stayed there, not knowing whether to stand or sit. He was under a lot of pressure. She was so domineering. Is she here to ask me to break up with Ku? Should I learn from the TV series and say things like, "We are true love, money will only insult me, don't bully the poor, and life is full of ups and downs"? Sit down. Ji Mingyu sighed slightly. To be honest, when I found that Ku kept lying to me for you, I wanted to tell you to get out of here as far as possible. But when I thought about my past, I was worse than you. So I calmed down and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Only when I become a mother can I understand my mother's feelings. While talking, she kept looking at Yan Jike in the arena and didn't turn her head. Lu Qing took a deep breath and sat down with the mentality that he would be stabbed no matter what. He said seriously, "Auntie, you must have something to say to me today, right?" Ji Mingyu finally looked at him and said self-mockingly, "Don't worry. Don't worry, I'm not here to force you two apart. Ku's temper has been like mine since she was a child. She looks delicate and weak, but she's very stubborn. Forcing her will only push her towards you. I was able to abandon everything and run to Shushan. She can do the same. I won't give you a lot of money and ask you to quit, although your family is not rich." Lu Cheng, I'm sorry, but I hope you can understand a mother's protective mentality after knowing that her daughter has a boyfriend. I have to investigate your situation. Empress Dowager is so scary. Lu Cheng suddenly understood Yan Jike's feelings. He said sincerely, "I understand your feelings." Ji Mingyu nodded slightly, "Very good. Although your family is not rich, you have great potential. Your martial arts strength has improved by leaps and bounds recently. Coupled with your current age, you will definitely feel that you have a bright future ahead of you. Money, paper, you can earn more in the future. So, I don't think money can be used against you. I won't set a goal for you to marry Ku. In the future, Ku will only become more and more outstanding. If you can't catch up with her, you'll feel inferior and quit on your own accord." Lu Cheng gradually calmed down as he listened. Doubts arose in his mind. "Auntie, what do you want to tell me? And Auntie, didn't you just find out that we are dating today? How did you find out so clearly?" Chapter 177. Ji Mingyu turned back and looked at Yan Jike, who was about to start the competition. Her dimples appeared on her cheeks. Ku was in poor health when she was young, so she was spoiled. Unlike me, I was used to being wild with my senior brothers and sisters and learned to lie. When she mentioned that you and her cousin had defeated an 8th Pin Dan stage fighter by taking turns, she didn't say much, but she couldn't hide the pride, and happiness in her voice. It was even more obvious than when she got the highest score in the exam. My heart skipped a beat. Oh no, my daughter really has a boyfriend. So that's how I got exposed at the beginning. Lu Cheng was suddenly enlightened and didn't feel depressed. Instead, he felt a kind of sweetness that made him want to laugh out loud. Knowing Yan Jike's attitude and tone when she talked about him from bystanders made him more certain about her feelings for him, making him feel satisfied and happy. With my beloved girl on my side, no matter how terrible my mother-in-law and father-in-law are, I won't be afraid. It's a pity that I didn't see Ku's face and hear her tone. With these key points, if I still can't find out your information, then I've lived half of my life in vain. Ji Mingyu said calmly, I'm here today to give you 2 wishes as Ku's mother, not demands. Auntie, please go ahead. Lu Cheng saw that Empress Dowager didn't want to force him and Yan Jike apart, so he regained his usual calmness, but he was still in awe. The fact that Empress Dowager gave birth to Ku, raised her, and loved her was worthy of his respect. Ji Mingyu turned her head and looked at Lu Cheng with a smile. First, before you're sure that you can shoulder Ku's life, don't go too far. Can you do that? Don't go too far. Lu Cheng almost didn't understand the meaning of these 4 words. After thinking for a while, he realized, mother-in-law, you're too subtle. I'm not an irresponsible person. I'll work hard to improve myself for Ku, and I won't hurt her. Lu Cheng replied to his mother-in-law in a more tactful way. Ji Mingyu nodded. Secondly, I know that when 2 people are together, no matter how much they love each other in the past, they still need to make certain sacrifices in order to complete the run-in. But I hope that you won't let Ku sacrifice her own dreams and her own brilliance for you. Believe me, true love can withstand the test of time and distance. A test of time and distance? Ku's dream and brilliance. Lu Cheng was a little confused and didn't quite understand what she meant, but he still said sincerely, Auntie, if it's really Ku's dream, I can only support it with both hands. Alright, remember what you said today. Ji Mingyu stood up slowly and commented, it won't be a big problem for Ko to win this game. Okay, I'll leave first. Don't tell Ko that I came. Yes. Suppressed by Empress Dowager's aura, Lu Qing couldn't find any words to say. He could only watch her leave maturely and gracefully. She joined another woman and walked out of hall number 2 along the aisle of the stands. What kind of dream would Ko have? I don't think I've ever asked. Lu Qing retracted his gaze. Seeing Yan Jike suppressing Qin Jun and using 24 blizzard strikes, he felt a little confused and inexplicable fear. Outside the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium, Ji Mingyu stopped at the entrance. She looked back and sighed softly. Junior uncle, this was not your original plan. Lu Xiaolan's senses were far better than ordinary people. Although she was not close, she heard the general idea. Ji Mingyu laughed at herself and said, when I saw Ko and that guy walking hand in hand and thinking of her fearful yet stubborn face, I remembered the past and my heart softened. That year, Shushan train station had been in disrepair for a long time and was in tatters. That year, there was a young girl who came from Jiangnan with only a bag of luggage. When she saw the man she was destined to meet at the station, she didn't cry, nor did she feel wronged. She smiled sweetly and announced, I only have you. Memories kept flashing in her mind. Ji Mingyu's expression softened. She suddenly felt homesick, so she walked to the parking lot and said, Xiaolan, don't tell anyone about this, including your husband. If Ko's father and her grandparents know about this, they will turn the sky upside down. Don't worry, junior uncle. I know what to do. Lu Xiaolan, who was walking beside Ji Mingyu, answered with a smile. That's right. Back then, the old man and old lady doted on their youngest daughter the most. In the end, they were angered and hurt badly. Later on, they projected their feelings onto their more obedient and pitiful granddaughter. If they knew that their precious daughter had been abducted by a wild man when she had just entered university, it was simply unimaginable what would happen. After getting the competition list, Chen Jun also looked up Yan Jike's information. From his friends in the martial arts circle in Songqing, he knew that the girl had achieved a small success in meditation, was good at listening skill, could forcibly pull the center of gravity, and had mastered 24 blizzard strikes. Therefore, he was well prepared. But his strength was average. He was not used to changing his fighting style at the last minute in order to avoid Yan Jike's listening skill. He kept exposing all kinds of problems. Besides, he had to divert his attention to guard against Yan Jike's forcibly pulling the center of gravity, which made him even more restrained. Before long, he was suppressed by 24 blizzard strikes. After only half a round, he couldn't hold on. Thanks to the help of the referee, he avoided being injured and fell off the ring. After this round, Yan Jike was much more assured and had a clearer understanding of her strength. She was indeed qualified to reach the level of amateur second pin. The girl was overjoyed. She turned her head to look at the stands, looking for Lu Qing. When she found that familiar guy and made eye contact with him, for some reason, she felt relieved. She smiled widely and waved her fist. Looking at Yan Jike's bright smile, Lu Qing was both happy and absent-minded. It was like heaven and hell when he faced Empress Dowager's aura just now. Empress Dowager acquiesced to my relationship with Ko. Just a wish, not a request. In an instant, he came back to his senses. He felt so excited that his whole body was trembling. Ecstasy surged from the bottom of his heart. Although he didn't know why his mother-in-law had acquiesced, at least he had achieved the initial success and had a good start. I am Ko's above-board boyfriend. He waved his fist in excitement. Yan Jike tilted her head and was puzzled. Why is Qing happier and more excited than me? This is only the first round of the ranking event, whatever, as long as he is happy. And he seems to be happy from the bottom of his heart. He can't help it. Yan Jike left the ring, checked with the competition supervisor and took back her phone. She walked along the aisle and walked briskly to Lu Qing. Lu Qing had already walked up to her and wanted to give her a big hug. Yenjika looked around shyly at her boyfriend's open arms. After confirming that no one was watching, she bit her lip and walked quickly to him, letting him hug her. "Why are you so happy?" Yenjika held back her laughter and asked in a low voice. Lu Qing had a lot to say and many things he longed to know. But considering that his girlfriend had matches in the afternoon and evening, he forced himself to hold back. "I'm just happy that you have a good start." Pfft. Yenjika laughed and broke free. She flipped her loose hair and looked around guiltily. Then she looked at her boyfriend suspiciously and said, "Why do I feel that your smile is not normal? Is this a girl's intuition?" Lu Qing laughed and said, "What's not normal? Let's sit over there and wait for Sun Jian and Senior Li Mao." "Okay." Yenjika was in a good mood and didn't think too much about her boyfriend's behavior just now. She sat down, took the unscrewed energy drink, and sipped to replenish her water. With her physical strength, even if she only played half of 24 blizzard strikes, it was inevitable that she would be sweating. Because of the perfect timing, they didn't have to wait for long before Sun Jian and Li Mao finished their matches and won their first match. After that, Sun Jian went to wait for Lin Hua. Lu Qing and the others met up with Guqing, who had already finished her match. They walked to an express hotel 15 minutes away. Songqing University's new campus was too far away from Songqing Martial Arts Club, so it was troublesome to go back and forth. According to the usual practice, they booked rooms in advance for each match to rest and recover as much as possible. This realization suddenly flashed in his mind, giving birth to an inexplicable feeling in his heart. He felt that the sound of the water seemed to be knocking on his heart and evoking something called ambiguity. A man and a woman alone in a room. He took a deep breath and told himself that Yenjika had a match in the afternoon, and it was a very important ranking event. He couldn't disturb her state of mind. The water condensed into ice, and the ice melted again. Lu Qing felt like he was sitting on pins and needles, sometimes restless and sometimes calm. When the sound of the shower stopped abruptly, he exhaled silently, as if he had just finished a challenge tournament. After a short while, Yenjika opened the door and came out. She was still wearing the white martial arts suit of Songqing University with black edges. Her hair was loosely tied up with a cowhide band, and her neck was white and slender. Her facial features were more and more beautiful at this time. Her exposed skin was moist and tender, as if it could be broken by a blow. Lu Qing looked like he was struck by lightning. He stared at her blankly, and gradually his mouth and tongue became dry. "What are you looking at?" Yenjika's face turned red as soon as she met Lu Chang's eyes. She hummed shyly, and then she said with a little fear, I'd better go to Qing first. I always feel that Qing will turn into a pervert if he howls. Why did I follow him in so stupidly?" Lu Qing took a deep breath and smelled the fragrance of the girl after the shower. He quickly condensed the water into ice and said earnestly, "Trust me, I'm really just giving you a massage to relax. How can I bear to disturb the ranking event that you've been looking forward to for so long?" Looking at his sincere expression, Yenjika bit her lower lip and said, "Okay, I believe you." Speaking of this, she raised her eyes, which seemed to be a little misty, and looked at Lu Qing timidly. "Don't let me down." "Of course not. Look at my righteous face." Lu Qing deliberately made a joke to ease the girl's uneasiness. "Silly face." Yenjika cursed with a smile. She put down the martial arts shoes and other things in her hands and sat beside Lu Qing. She looked at her feet shyly and uneasily and said, "Let's start." "Okay." Lu Qing first took out the ointment and put it aside, waiting to be used. Then he let the girl turn her body sideways, and then he knelt on one leg on the edge of the bed and stretched out his hands to press her shoulders. After a few times, Yenjika was a little happy and a little surprised. Ching, when did you learn to do this? You're quite good at it. Lu Qing laughed and said, didn't you say before that when I mastered the skill of massage, you would let me help you with physical therapy to relax? I've always kept it in mind, watched a lot of videos, and looked up a lot of information. With my insight and understanding of the body, how could they hide from me with their little tricks? I learned it quickly. You still remember it? Yenjika pursed her lips and looked in front of her, her deep dimples showing sweetness. But, you're usually so busy, how can you have time to look at this? You also collected so much information about marine life. I still have time to squeeze. Lu Cheng's hands moved down and pressed the girl's back muscles. He answered with a smile, there are some non-professional courses that I don't need to listen to, but I don't dare to skip them, so I can do these things. But it's a little wasteful, in the university, there were many similar courses. Lu Qing always suspected that these courses were specially prepared for the students to relax. Compared to them, the elective courses that were chosen based on one's interest made him more eager to listen carefully. No wonder a senior brother once said that he would always choose to skip elective courses and skip compulsory courses. Yenjika narrowed her eyes and said, I use these courses to review the professional courses and read the extended literature. Good student. Lu Qing praised. Like a child expecting praise, he asked, is it comfortable? Do you want it more or less? It's okay. Yenjika answered reservedly, a little more. Feeling her satisfaction, the smile on Lu Cheng's face grew wider. Together with the application of the ointment, he began to massage the muscles of the girl's arms and legs to relax the remaining tension after the explosion. After the familiarization just now, Yenjika was more and more satisfied with his skills. Gradually, she closed her eyes and concentrated on enjoying. After a while of physical therapy, Lu Qing was too embarrassed to ask his girlfriend to lie down, so he squatted down and massaged her ankle. He glanced around and saw a bruise on the back of her foot where her slippers were exposed. He applied the ointment and rubbed it away with a moderate amount of strength. Because part of the bruise was blocked by the slippers, he raised his head and wanted to ask Yenjika to lift her foot and take off her shoes. But when he saw the girl closed her eyes and enjoyed it, he felt that there was no need to ask. Since she asked him to massage it, she would definitely not object. Lu Qing held her delicate ankle and lifted it gently. Yenjika instinctively struggled for a while and then relaxed. Her eyelashes trembled slightly and her cheeks blushed unconsciously. After taking off her shoes, Lu Qing suddenly stopped breathing. He saw the girl's small feet, delicate toes, jade-like skin, and fleshy instep, which didn't match her elegant appearance, but was also quite cute. Lu Qing didn't know when it started, but he felt that his breath became heavier and his kneading action became more like caressing. He felt that this couldn't work, so he quickly raised his head and looked away, only to see Yenjika's bulging chest. Lu Cheng's blood seemed to be rushing. His mouth was dry and his tongue was restless. He pressed the acupoint on her foot harder, which made her involuntarily let out a low moan. Lu Cheng's heart beat faster when he heard the moan. When he was about to do something, Yenjika opened her eyes and asked innocently and confusedly, Cheng, what's wrong with you? Why did you press so hard? Lu Qing took a deep breath and remembered that today was the day of the ranking event. He hurriedly said, I'm going to wash my face with cold water. Yenjika was at a loss at first, but then she saw Lu Qing run to the bathroom with his back hunched. She suddenly realized what he was doing and blushed. You big pervert. She lay down on her side, grabbed a pillow and buried her face in it. Her voice was shy and happy, but when she remembered Lu Cheng's appearance just now, she couldn't help but chuckle, feeling sweet and touched. I wonder how it feels to wash my face with cold water. If it's not enough, will he take a cold shower? She thought shyly and naughtily. Lu Qing was splashing cold water on his face to sober up the burning heat. He felt that he had just experienced another battle between heaven and earth. What a wonderful and painful experience. When he calmed down and returned to the room, Yenjika was already tired. She wrapped herself in the quilt and said, "Qing, I'm going to sleep for a while. Wake me up at 11:30 for dinner." "Okay, we'll talk about the competition in the afternoon after dinner." Lu Qing walked to her side and said. Yenjika turned over and said coquettishly, "Rub my temples for me until I fall asleep." "Okay." Lu Qing accepted the task happily and reached out to rub her temples. After a while, he heard Yenjika's steady breathing and saw that she was sleeping peacefully. His mood softened and he forgot about the wild thoughts just now. He just looked at his beloved girl for a long time. Lu Qing took the time to find the information. Instead of waking Yenjika up, he went downstairs to buy some food and brought it back. He seduced her nose with the fragrance and made her slowly open her eyes. Yenjika's black hair covered both sides of her face. Her face was white and delicate, and her dark and lively eyes were still a little confused after waking up. Lu Qing stared at her in a daze and felt that he would never forget this picture. Yenjika won the competition in the afternoon and evening because she was well prepared and strong enough. Lu Qing, on the other hand, experienced the torture of ice and fire in the afternoon when he was massaging her in the afternoon. At 8:00 in the evening, the martial arts club returned to the old campus. Guiqing, Li Mao, and the others were quite excited because they also won all the matches. Chapter 178. After listening to Lu Cheng's story, Yenjika wondered if she was really proud and happy when she mentioned her boyfriend. At the same time, she wanted to exclaim that Tai Shuiran was so powerful that ordinary people like her couldn't compare with him. But the last question made her fall silent. Under the illumination of the street lamps, she rested her hands on his shoulders. Her eyes peered over his sideburns, looking at half of his face from a different angle than usual. She could feel the steady but anxious footsteps beneath her. She pursed her lips and said, "You're too young. My biggest dream is, of course, to make up for the shortcomings of my body and continue to walk on the path of martial arts. Even if I may not be able to go very far, I will be very, very happy with every step forward. However, with the current medical development, there is no hope for this. Moreover, it has been more than 10 years, and I have accepted this reality. It does not affect my daily life. My mom is talking about another thing. I used to think that I had a talent for numbers and logic and could see through the rules of things at a glance. Humph, don't laugh. I was so innocent back then. Now I have been led astray by you. Therefore, I often tell my mother that I can definitely inherit your company. It's a piece of cake. But I don't like to deal with all kinds of strangers, I don't like to fight and scheme, I don't like to run around everywhere. So I want to learn mathematics, economics, trade, and finance. I want to be a strategist, hiding behind the scenes and strategizing. I applied to Songqing University because I wanted to keep an eye on my brother in case something happened to him. Also, our school and Yvonne University in the United States have a joint training program. When I am in my senior year, I can go there to study under the top scholars in the world after passing the assessment. It will take about 3 to 5 years. The night breeze was cool. The girl's voice drilled into Lu Cheng's ears and made him a little absent-minded. Is this the test of time and distance? Little Ming already has a hard time in a long-distance relationship, let alone in a foreign country. He took a breath and asked seriously and nervously, "Will you come back?" Yenjika burst into laughter and answered firmly, "Of course I will. My relatives and friends are here. The culture and history that are deeply ingrained in my bones are here. All my favorite food is here. The boy I like is here too. Towards the end of her sentence, her voice became softer and softer until it was as soft as a mosquito's buzzing, but she still insisted on saying it. Fortunately, she was on Orange's back and didn't have to face him. He wouldn't see her embarrassed expression. The boy I like is also here. A smile appeared on Lu Chang's face. He let out a long sigh and said, then go. Go and pursue your dreams. Let me see the more brilliant and beautiful you. Chang, have you been scared silly by my mom? Even your words have become more cultured. Yenjike chuckled and put her hands around his shoulders, clasping them in front of him. Aren't you worried? She asked in an uncertain tone. Yes. My little fairy is so pretty, so cute, so smart, and so beautiful. I don't know how many men have bad intentions towards her. Yenjike pursed her lips and smiled. She thought for a while and said, I'm quite confident in myself. There were many good boys who pursued me before, but I still cruelly rejected them all. I know what I want, so I can persevere. You can say that I'm very rational, but you can also say that I'm very hard-hearted. But you, Cheng, you have so many fans now. When you step into the dance stage and enter the professional martial arts circle in the future, there will definitely be more girls who like you and even seduce you. Without me watching over you, I really don't know if you can reject them. My mom always says that not many men can withstand this kind of test. Lu Qing didn't look back. He smiled and said, I'm confident in myself. If I can persist in training every day, I can also persist in keeping a distance from other girls. I'm going to become a mighty one with physical invulnerability. How can I not have some extraordinary perseverance? Cheng, your words remind me of a term in a novel. Yenjika was silent for a few seconds. She suddenly laughed and said, ascetic boy. Pfft, what kind of term is that? Lu Qing didn't think too much about the term and said, actually, it's not a big deal to be in a foreign relationship. In the age of the internet, communication is so convenient. As long as you coordinate your time, you can still chat every day. Besides, I should be a powerful dance stage fighter by then. I can definitely afford to fly once a month. But I'm a little sad that you're alone outside and can't find anyone to help you. Yenjika's eyes turned dark and bright. She replied with a smile, I'll definitely be a tough girl of professional ninth pin by then. What can't I solve by myself? Well, when I'm there, I'll focus on my studies. I'll wear a pair of big black-rimmed glasses and dress like a nun. I won't attend any parties and will be immune to all harassment. I'll try to come back in 3 years. Won't you become Abbess Miju? Lu Qing was happy to hear that. He reminded her worriedly, you must be careful of those men who try to get close to you by pretending to be your fellow countrymen. Yenjike immediately laughed and raised her head. Are you talking about yourself? You must learn from the mistakes of others. Lu Qing said half seriously and half self-deprecatingly. Yenjike was infected by his optimism. Her melancholy melted away. She looked at the back of his head with a smile and suddenly remembered a sentence. I was young then. The corresponding organ squirmed or rose and fell. Normally speaking, every movement of the human body, no matter how weak it was, would create waves that belonged to itself. However, they were too weak and would disappear in the blink of an eye. But at this moment, these waves were ingeniously stacked together, turning into an icy chill that even normal people could feel, spreading in all directions. The leisurely geyser sure at the sides suddenly froze. He looked over and whispered in astonishment, You've succeeded in your visualization. Lu Cheng's spirit had reached its limit. He couldn't hold it anymore and exited the state of unity. He opened his eyes and happily answered his master's question, Yes, I've finally succeeded. Finally. Geezer sure was stunned. He suddenly laughed and said, "Not bad. You have some of my demeanor back then. That's all for today. Don't try to force yourself to avoid hurting your brain. Okay, you can practice by yourself now. Master was so awesome back then. I couldn't beat him even with the help of Jean Dan." Lu Cheng's heart trembled. He put away the pride and satisfaction of finally succeeding in his visualization and started to run seriously. When he was far away, Geezer sure cursed in his heart, "Damn it. I thought it was amazing enough that I succeeded in 1 month of visualization. Could it be that the Longhu Immortal's relic he got helped him understand the frost concept? But there's no precedent for this." Chapter 179. After jogging, Lu Cheng took a shower, changed his clothes, and had breakfast. He went back to the dormitory and waited for Yan Zhike at the entrance of the 3rd dormitory. The girl was always punctual and would always arrive a little earlier than usual. It didn't take long for her to appear at the entrance of the unit. She carried a bag and walked briskly towards Lu Cheng. She was still wearing the white Songqing University martial arts suit with black edges, but this was the spare one. She wore a small pink jacket, looking like a little white flower. Lu Cheng walked up to her, took the bag, and held her hand. He smiled and said, "You're recovering well. Are your muscles not sore anymore?" When they returned to the new campus last night, he pulled Yan Zhike to a secluded spot by the lake and let her sit on the bench. He applied ointment and massaged her body to relax her muscles, doing his best to be a good boyfriend. Of course, during this process, smelling the girl's fragrance, touching her smooth and elastic skin, and looking at her beautiful appearance, Lu Cheng couldn't help himself. Especially when he helped her take off her martial arts shoes and socks, and massage the hidden wounds on her feet, he really had the illusion that he was undressing her. He almost howled at the moon and turned into a fire-breathing werewolf. Fortunately, with his extraordinary perseverance, he restrained himself in the end. He only asked for a passionate kiss after the deed was done to soothe the wounds in his heart. "Not sore anymore." Yenjika revealed her sweet dimples and said with a smile, "I can call you a massage expert in the future. Next time when you're tired from special training or competition, you can find me directly for physical therapy." Lu Cheng tried to keep his smile from being too bright. "At that time, there won't be any competition and I won't have to worry about it. I won't have to struggle so much. Just thinking about it filled me with anticipation." Yenjika rolled her black eyes and rolled her eyes at Lu Cheng. She seemed to be embarrassed and angry at the same time. "You're smiling so lecherously. Do you think I'm stupid?" "Humph, I'll definitely choose a place where other people offer physical therapy." "Where?" Lu Cheng looked at his girlfriend innocently. If he wasn't holding Yenjika with one hand and carrying her bag with the other, he would have rubbed his face to prevent it from being too stiff. "Everywhere." Yenjika covered her mouth and chuckled. The two of them had eaten breakfast, and as they talked, they went straight to the bus station to meet up with Guoqing, Li Mao, and the others. Yenjika noticed that Lu Cheng looked tired when they got on the car. She asked with concern, "Cheng, you look tired." Speaking of this, she suddenly thought of something that Dirty Tong said, and her pretty face suddenly turned red. She forcibly held back her laughter, turned her head to look out the window, and said casually, You didn't sleep well, did you?" At this moment, the image of Lu Cheng running to the bathroom with a hunched back flashed through her mind. She had a hard time holding back her laughter, and her body was trembling slightly because of it. "Oh no, I've been led astray by Ching and Dirty Tong." Seeing the girl like this and hearing her question, Lu Cheng's old face immediately turned red. Yes, he did have sex with her in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, when he woke up, he couldn't remember Yenjika's beautiful appearance in his dream. Sigh, as a young man with a strong body and vigor that far exceeds that of ordinary people, it would be strange if he didn't have any reaction in the middle of the night after being stimulated so many times that he almost couldn't control himself. Empress Dowager said to stop before going too far. What a great test. But, to what extent should he stop? While thinking, he lowered his voice and explained, I'm sorry, Coach Yen. I'm not tired because of this. It's because I finally got started on visualization today. I've used up too much energy, so I'm a little tired. Visualization. Yenjika was born in a martial arts family, so she naturally understood that Lu Cheng's visualization was not a normal visualization. She turned around and said with surprise, Coach Sure officially accepted you as a disciple? She even showed the visualization diagram to Cheng. Yes. Lu Cheng admitted frankly. Master, I didn't reveal it. She guessed it. I didn't break my promise. Yenjika's clear eyes were filled with obvious joy. She pursed her lips and said with a smile, You're a martial artist with a master and a background in the future. You won't be bullied by others. Even old men and women would think highly of you. It's not enough. You can only be strong if you're strong yourself. Lu Cheng was full of confidence after getting started on visualization. Yenjika looked at his confident and high-spirited look. Her dark and beautiful eyes sparkled like stars. She laughed in a low voice and said, My brother spent 3 months to get the beginner's level of visualization corresponding to meteor force. Even if Cheng started to comprehend the visualization diagram since the awakening of the power of frost, it still took less than a month. She couldn't hide the pride and happiness in her voice. Lu Cheng didn't mention that it only took him a week, because he thought it was due to the help of the Jindan. He just smiled and said, Everyone has different talents. Well, combined with the supernatural ability of frost, it won't be long before I can master the frost force. He didn't say these words to show off. He mainly wanted to share his joy with the girl he loved and to give her enough confidence. Based on what Casanova Kai Xiaoming had said about long-distance relationships, he had grasped an important point. When faced with the test of time and distance, it wasn't enough to rely on feelings alone. One had to give the other party enough confidence in all aspects. Frost force. Yenjika repeated in a low voice. Her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes were full of joy. Lu Cheng changed his hand from holding hers to intertwined fingers. They looked at each other and the atmosphere became warm and meaningful. They felt that any random topic was so interesting and comfortable. After a while, Yenjika rolled her eyes and couldn't restrain her curiosity. She pretended to ask casually, You're not tired because of that? In other words, you didn't sleep well last night. Did you have a strange dream? After asking, she blushed and looked out of the window. But she couldn't help looking back at Lu Cheng's reaction. What should I do? I've been with Cheng for a long time. I'm getting bolder and more shameless in this aspect. Lu Cheng laughed and recalled the bitterness of getting up in the middle of the night to change his pants. He answered honestly and teasingly, Yes, I had a wet dream. I dreamed that I and you, don't say it. Yenjika took his hand and hit his thigh. She looked out of the window in panic. But her ears were dyed with a layer of red, sparkling and translucent like a gem. After a long time, she calmed down. She turned back and whispered, Big pervert. You asked, but you became so shy after asking. Girls are so strange. Lu Cheng really wanted to scratch the back of his head. Yenjika saw that he became honest and nodded with satisfaction. She volunteered, Come closer. I'll rub your temples and show you the skills of a massage expert. Okay. Lu Cheng was pleasantly surprised. He sat closer, smelling the girl's delicate fragrance and feeling her slender but nimble fingers rubbing his temples to relieve his tiredness. Your skills are good. When did you learn? He praised sincerely. Yenjika raised her chin and said with a little pride, yesterday. When you gave me a massage, I just felt it a little and learned it. I'm not as stupid as you. Yes, yes. You're our family's IQ. Lu Qing praised exaggeratedly. Enjoying the girl's gentleness, he felt good both physically and mentally. He only hated that the journey to the old campus was not long enough. They arrived in only half an hour. Yenjika's opponent in the morning was called Zhang Hengwang. He was the strongest opponent in her group. There were even battle videos of him on the internet. When analyzing the videos last night, Lu Qing felt lucky that the girl didn't meet him in the first round. Because of her lack of actual combat experience, she could easily make mistakes. However, after yesterday's 3 matches, Lu Qing was sure that his girlfriend had completely gotten rid of her newbie status. With her strength, superior inheritance, and him helping her to analyze her opponent's battle videos, her chance of winning was more than 70%. After the match started, it went as he expected. Yenjika took the initiative from the beginning and brought the situation into her control. Even so, as a boyfriend, Lu Qing didn't dare to relax. He was afraid that something wrong would upset the girl. At this moment, he saw 3 figures that he wasn't familiar with, but they weren't strangers either. Dream Squad. Lu Qing said to himself. They were Qian Ruoyu, Jiang Dingyi, and Feng Shaoquan. What a coincidence. Qian Ruoyu greeted with a smile. Lu Qing was confused. Yes, it is. I didn't expect you to come here. They were already of amateur first pin and didn't need to participate in this ranking event. If you can cheer for your girlfriend, we can also cheer for our junior brothers and sisters. Qian Ruoyu chuckled and turned to Yenjika in the field. I saw you, so I came to say hello. I see. Lu Qing suddenly understood, but he didn't want to chat with her since he wasn't familiar with her. He just replied with 3 simple words. Qian Ruoyu didn't care about his attitude and said with a smile, do you want to work part-time during the summer? You can work part-time in our martial arts club. The pay is good, 9 to 5, and we won't ask you to reveal the unique skills of our sect. We just want to teach the students the basics. This wasn't her idea, but her father's. Who wouldn't want to have a good relationship with such a talented fighter with a strong background and potential? In Jianghu, harmony wasn't the most important thing, but one more friend was one more path. The real old fox knew this. Lu Qing knew that he could reach the peak of body refining realm with Thunder Roar Zen before the summer vacation. He needed to prepare medicine soup and other things to break through to Danchi realm, which was a huge expense. He had already planned to find a way to make money. The rest of his private money had to be used for dating. 99% of it was not enough. However, Yenjika would definitely go back to Shushan by then. Why would he stay in Songqing? Anyway, there were ways to make money in Shushan. Thinking of this, he replied politely, I have to go back home during the summer vacation. If there is a chance, I'd love to work part-time in the martial arts club. Anytime. Qian Ruoyu maintained her standard smile. After she turned and walked away, she exhaled and said, it's so stressful to be with such a guy. Chapter 180. Lu Qing didn't care about the feelings of Qian Ruoyu and the others. Instead, he was curious about how long the triangle relationship could last and when it would happen. He turned his eyes back to the field and saw that Yenjika had finally created an opportunity by pulling back her center of gravity twice in a row. She borrowed strength and launched 24 blizzard strikes, completely suppressing Zhang Hengwang with the momentum of the mega avalanche. Zhang Hengwang made 2 efforts in a row, but they were all diffused by the girl with some skills of yin-yang twist. Not only was the avalanche not interrupted, but it became more and more fierce and terrifying. In the end, it broke the opponent's stance with an overwhelming momentum. Seizing the opportunity, Yenjika visualized the explosive power of a meteor fall. Adding all the strength she had borrowed before, she leaned sideways and directly knocked Zhang Hengwang out of the arena. If she hadn't held back at the last moment, her opponent would have at least broken a few ribs due to her bouncing and shaking. Yenjika wins. The referee withdrew his hand, which was trying to stop the fight. Yenjika exhaled a mouthful of foul air. She only felt that her body was empty and the muscles of her legs were trembling uncontrollably. This was a hard fight. Although her opponent was at a disadvantage at the beginning, he defended impenetrably with his rich experience and good strength. Sometimes he could even counterattack once or twice. In the last fierce attack of the Mega Avalanche, he had almost held on for a round. He was really a tenacious enemy, who made her consume a lot of energy. Ignoring Zhang Hengwang's attempt to stand up and talk to her, Yenjika turned to look at the stands. She met Lu Cheng's eyes and smiled. No matter what, she had made it through the group. There was only one battle left before she reached amateur second pin. She just had to grit her teeth and endure it. She took back her phone and turned to walk up the aisle. After a few steps, her delicate eyebrows suddenly wrinkled. She felt the tension and trembling of the muscles of her legs. Her knees almost gave way and she fell to the ground. Before she could think of anything, she saw a blur in front of her. She saw Lu Qing jump down from the high platform like an eagle. His toes touched the ground midway and he changed his direction. He arrived in front of her in a flying posture. The whole process had the beauty of a burst of power and also the elegance of lifting heavy things as if they were light. "Are you okay?" Lu Qing held the girl and asked with concern. Yenjika was in a daze, as if she hadn't come back to her senses yet. Her face was full of confusion until her body was held by her boyfriend. Then she smiled little by little. Her watery eyes looked to the side, hiding a little pride and joy. She pretended not to care and said, "Nothing. I just consumed too much energy." "You scared me to death just now. You appeared in front of me in the blink of an eye. Didn't I see you almost fall?" Lu Qing looked around and found that there were still many people who had noticed his feat. They were full of admiration and gave him a thumbs up. He really wanted sex more than his life. It was just a piece of cake. Lu Qing smiled contentedly and suggested to the girl, "Let's go straight back to the hotel and not wait for them. Let's make the best use of the time to recover. The most important battle is in the afternoon. We'll be fine once we get through it." "Yes." Yenjika knew that this was the best and most reasonable choice, so she nodded politely. Just as she was about to support her boyfriend, she saw Lu Qing crouch down and pat her on the shoulder. "Come on, I'll carry you." Yenjika wanted to say, "That's so embarrassing." But considering the tense muscles in her body and her boyfriend's attitude, she swallowed the words. She looked around and then lowered her head guiltily. She loosened her bun and let her black hair hang down, covering half of her cheeks. I'm an ostrich." She muttered to herself and leaned on Lu Cheng's back. She put her hands on her shoulders and didn't let her chest touch her boyfriend's body. Lu Qing knew that the girl was shy, so he talked about what happened before to divert her attention. "I just met Qian Ruoyu and her friends. She politely invited me to work in her martial arts club during the summer vacation." Yenjika was really interested. She stared at the back of her boyfriend's head and said with a faint smile, "So are you going? Isn't it up to you?" Lu Qing took the opportunity to ask, "Ku, are you going back to Shushan during the summer vacation?" "Of course, I'm a little homesick." Yenjika's tone became light. "At most, I'll take a week or two to play with Grandpa. Isn't that right? Since you're going back to Shushan, wouldn't it be crazy for me to stay in Songqing?" Lu Qing didn't slow down and carried the girl out of the second hall. Yenjika asked thoughtfully. Ching, you should have practiced martial arts to the bone and body during the summer vacation, right? That was the peak of the body refining state. No need for summer vacation. Lu Cheng's answer was concise and full of confidence. But he immediately became long-winded and told the girl about his plan. I've thought about it. If I want to break through to the Danqi state, I can't just rely on 10,000 yuan. During the summer vacation, I'll check if there are any small challenge tournaments in the province and take some time to get some prize money. If there's no money, I'll ask my classmates for help and work part-time in the martial arts club. Yenjika heard that Lu Qing had already made plans and preparations. She bit her lower lip with her white teeth to hide her smile. But she couldn't hide the gentleness in her expression. This was the tremor force that could defeat most of the professional ninth pin fighters. Just to give me a massage. Cheng is so creative. But why do I feel so happy? Yeah, how do you feel? Lu Qing asked again to confirm the final strength. Yenjika pursed her lips and curved her eyebrows. A little bit more gently. Otherwise, it would affect other parts of the body and make her feel uncomfortable. After that, Lu Qing, who was concentrating on controlling the strength, didn't think too much. But when he switched back to the normal massage technique to recover his energy, he saw Yenjika fall asleep without any defense. He felt a little restless and had to go to the bathroom to calm himself down. He went back and forth 3 times. When Yenjika woke up, she saw Lu Qing was still busy giving her a massage. She felt warm in her heart and asked softly, Qing, are you tired? He looked very tired. Tremor force was not a martial art with low consumption. I'm okay. Lu Qing tried to stay awake and said, how do you feel? How much have you recovered? Yenjika got up from the bed and slowly made a routine. She said with surprise and joy, it's almost the same as when I went out this morning. That's good. I'll go out to buy some food. You lie down for a while. Seeing the girl's surprise, Lu Qing felt that all his hard work was not in vain. And at this level, the rest of the fatigue could only be recovered by itself. Seeing him go out in a hurry, Yenjika leaned on the pillow and smiled gently. Her eyes were like water. At 1:00, the two returned to the arena and received the results of the draw from the service desk. Yenjika vs Healingling. Lu Qing endured the exhaustion and the throbbing pain caused by excessive mental exhaustion and immediately looked up the information of his opponent. She seems to be a little stronger than your opponent in the morning. He made a judgment while looking. Yenjika was also looking at her phone. She nodded slightly and said, she's good at dragon shape and practicing the spine. She's very good at catching. Don't think about letting her catch. Dragon claws are mainly tearing. You'll get hurt if you're not careful. Lu Qing started a discussion with the girl. After a long time, Yenjika had a general idea. She sighed and said, I just checked QQ. Qing said that although senior brother Sun Jian won the last match, he still didn't make it to the next round. The ranking event really depends on luck. But my little fairy is very lucky. Lu Qing said with emotion. Yenjika looked at him with a smile and said, you're going to participate in the professional ranking event in April. How do you feel about your luck? Do you want my luck to shine on you? Lu Qing laughed in a low voice and said, Coach Yen, can I brag? Brag. Yenjika's eyes lit up and she urged him curiously. Based on the current situation, I think I'm the standard to measure other people's luck. Lu Qing said with a smile, you're lucky if you don't get my number. If you do, you can only say you have bad luck. He said this with confidence and high spirits. He had mastered the Thunder Roar Zen and was sure to master the Frost Force before the end of April. If he didn't even have the confidence to make it to the ranking event, he might as well go back and kill himself with a piece of tofu. At 2:50, Yenjika stepped into the ring and faced the last and most crucial opponent of the ranking event. If she won this match, her previous efforts would be meaningful. If she lost this match, she had to start all over again. He Lingling was about the same height as Yenjika. She looked more solemn. At this moment, she took a breath and said with a smile, "I thought it would be easier. Those who can make it to the next round are not easy to deal with." Yenjika didn't fall for her opponent's arrogance. "I won't be careless." Chapter 181. He Lingling was stunned for a moment, then she chuckled. "I thought a girl like you who is spoiled and everything goes smoothly would be easy to be complacent and arrogant. What does she mean by being spoiled and everything goes smoothly?" Yenjika felt that He Lingling's words seemed to be complimenting her, but in fact, there were sharp needles hidden in them. She felt a little uncomfortable, but she had received a good education since she was young, so she didn't want to argue with her enemy. So she closed her eyes, adjusted her emotions, and prepared for the best battle state. She felt He Lingling's noisy voice gradually fade away, and her mind slowly cleared. She suddenly recalled what had happened in the past few days. Mom had acquiesced to Cheng's existence, so she didn't have to worry about it, feel guilty, and worry about it anymore. She took this opportunity to tell Cheng about her plan to study abroad, and got his understanding and support. She didn't have to worry about it all the time, a single man and a single woman in a room. Furthermore, there was intimate skin contact, but Cheng still endured it. He would rather suffer by himself than let me be disturbed. This proved that he didn't like me purely because of lust. Everything was so happy and relaxing. The burden in her heart was lifted layer by layer. So free and satisfied. Yenjika opened her eyes and felt refreshed. Her mind was unprecedentedly lively, and all the distracting thoughts in her mind faded away, leaving only the match in front of her. The last match. When she was a little impatient, the referee raised his right hand and waved it down. "Start." He Lingling had been preparing for a long time. She leaned forward, bounced her spine, and pounced forward like a dragon, approaching Yenjika at an extremely fast speed. Dragon form, rising dragon. She had practiced this move to the current level, so she could forcibly pull back her center of gravity with her spine like Lu Qing and Yenjika. However, she still lacked fine control of her body muscles, which could easily hurt other parts of her body. So she wouldn't use this move under normal circumstances. And if this move was cultivated to the peak of the body refinement realm, with a flick of the spine, most of the muscles in the body would exert force, vibrating and stirring the air. Combined with the sound of breathing in the mouth, it could create a low roar like a dragon's roar, producing an effect similar to the lion's roar. Seeing that He Lingling was almost in front of her, Yenjika, who had lost her balance, calmed down and visualized a scene of rolling snow. She shook her right arm and hit out. He Lingling had already raised her right hand, clenched it into a fist, and struck out from the side. Bang! As soon as the two of them collided, He Lingling's 5 fingers popped out, making a series of crackling sounds. Her iron fingers were like hooks, grabbing Yenjika's fist. Dragon form, dragon claw tier. Yenjika was no stranger to this move. She had been fighting according to the method she had discussed with Lu Qing before, which was to leave as soon as she touched the dragon. Now, with the help of the rebound of the collision, she quickly withdrew her right fist and narrowly avoided the dragon's claw. At the same time, she twisted her waist and tightened her thighs. Her left foot kicked out like a straight soft whip towards He Lingling's knee. "I don't believe you can use the dragon claw skill." At this moment, He Lingling bent her spine and bent her body, lowering her body in time. Her right hand's 5 fingers tore through the wind, fiercely grabbing Yenjika's ankle. Dragon form, the most important part of training was the spine, which was the dragon of the body. Yenjika's heart tightened. She knew that once she was caught by the dragon's claw and torn, with her listening skill, she would have no time to react. Her left leg would be temporarily disabled, and it would be difficult to recover without several weeks or even months of treatment. This kind of move was one of the main culprits that caused more serious injuries in the arena matches. Because it was difficult for the referee to make a judgment in time, if his vision was slightly off, it would be difficult for him to know whether the next move would be a grab or a tear, and he would not be able to judge in advance whether the captured fighter had the means to deal with it. If he was half a beat slower, once the force was released, the result would be irreversible. At this moment, Yenjika's left leg had just whipped towards Yenjika, and it seemed that it would be difficult for her to change her move or dodge. She could only see if there was a way to create an instant burst of strength to escape the dragon's claw. The situation was very dangerous. But suddenly, her body trembled strangely. Her left leg paused, and she twisted her waist and back. Her whole body soared into the air, and with a spring of her right leg, she kicked He Lingling's chin. Chain kick, one of the skills of the yin-yang twist. This move was like a stroke of genius, completely out of He Lingling's expectations. Seeing that the tip of the opponent's foot was just inches away, she could only bend her waist back, and in a flash, she completed a difficult iron bridge. Even so, she still felt a burning pain on her chin, as if she had been brushed by something. With her ability to control her center of gravity, she could not maintain her balance like Lu Qing, so she simply went with the flow and rolled on the ground like a lazy donkey. Yenjika forced herself to use the chain kick, but when she landed, she also could not maintain her center of gravity. She stumbled 2 steps to the side and barely managed to stabilize herself. One leaped up like a carp, while the other turned around with the help of the rebound of her feet. The two resumed the confrontation before the match began. Seeing this, Lu Qing finally felt relieved and let out a long sigh. He was so worried that he almost thought that Yenjika could not resist and had to admit defeat. Of course, if they were in each other's shoes, he thought that he had more than 10 ways to break He Lingling's dragon claw. Yenjika adjusted her breath and began to attack again. This time, she changed her fighting style, which was closer to the style of the 8-diagram swimming body palm. She slid to the side of Yenjika and gave her a punch. He Lingling did not have time to use her dragon claw, so she could only raise her right arm to block the punch. Yenjika immediately used the force to swing her body and fiercely kicked out her right leg, but it could not pass the knee. Bam! He Lingling kicked out her right leg to block the attack. Her body leaned slightly to the side, and her 5 fingers were like iron, tearing the air in the air. Yenjika did not stop. She slid and stepped to the side of Yenjika again while avoiding the enemy's attack. Lu Qing had been sparring with Yenjika every day, so he was familiar with this martial art. It was a palm technique passed down in the Ji family, called 9 Palaces Flying Dragon Palm, which focused on attacking from the side and the back. Lin Ke did not like it very much, so he hardly used it. Yenjika was using it now, but not exactly copying it. Her footwork was the footwork of the flying dragon palm, but her hand fighting and leveraging skills belonged to the 24 blizzard strikes. Yenjika's figure fluttered and her posture was graceful. She seized the opportunity to use the brutal blizzard fiercer and fiercer, but she was not greedy. Once Yenjika used her dragon claw, she would immediately move away and change her position. Lu Qing nodded slightly to show his agreement, which put He Lingling at a disadvantage. She could not use her strength and could only passively defend. Now it's time to see who is more impatient, he whispered to himself. The reason why he did not say who was close to the limit first was that both of them did not have a clear understanding of each other's condition. In this case, the one who was impatient first would easily expose the problem. It was very likely that the one who failed first would find out that the other was already at the limit after the failure, and would be able to win by parrying a few more moves. Lu Qing could only pray anxiously, hoping that his tremor force massage would work. Yenjika was born with a weak constitution. Although she had consciously made up for it and done targeted training, she was still a little weaker than other martial artists of the same level. Therefore, the more she fought, the more anxious she became. The more she fought, the faster she felt her strength dropping. She wanted to risk using the 24 blizzard strikes several times, but was suppressed by the rationality and logic in her bones. She believed that He Lingling did not know about her congenital weakness. Therefore, there was more than a 70% chance that Yenjika would lose her composure because of her calmness. Perseverance was victory. After another round of wandering and tangling, He Lingling became more anxious. When Yenjika slid behind her, she suddenly exerted force on her feet and her spine suddenly bounced back. She moved horizontally and bumped into Yenjika, who had just stood firm. Dragon form, flying dragon hits rock. Yenjika had no time to dodge, so she had to put up her arms in front of her to block the collision. A collision followed by a flip. He Lingling's spine undulated like a trembling great spear. Using her body as the shaft, she punched out with her left fist, explosively smashing towards her opponent's shoulder at close range. Dragon form, turning spear. Dragon form is also a spear form. Facing this, Yenjika took a deep breath. Instead of dodging in a hurry, she lowered her waist and sat down, visualizing a mountain peak covered with thousands of years of snow. A meteor fell from the sky and hit the peak, creating a deafening explosion that made hundreds of thousands of tons of snow collapse. Bam! She put her feet inward, turned her waist, and punched upward with her right hand like a hammer. Meteor fall, mega avalanche. Bam! When their fists collided, He Lingling's body swayed, while Yenjika seemed to have lost her center of gravity. She stumbled backward, but also avoided the dragon claw that followed closely behind. She took 2 steps back to stabilize her center of gravity, but according to the on-the-spot techniques that Lu Qing taught her during the sparring session, she took 2 more steps back to accumulate her strength. Seeing that her opponent's center of gravity was scattered, He Lingling was delighted. She exerted strength in her feet, pounced forward, and stretched out her dragon claw. Just when she thought she was about to succeed, Yenjika suddenly stopped. Her feet were like 2 nails, firmly planted in the ground. She leaned back, then swung forward. Her accumulated strength, meteor fall and mega avalanche burst out together, activating a powerful and direct heart-drilling hammer. Bam! He Lingling's dragon claw couldn't hold Yenjika's fist, and was knocked away by her fierce strength. Yenjika used the rebound to whip out her left leg. When Yenjika hurriedly blocked with her leg, she took the opportunity to withdraw her leg, clenched her hands into fists, and hit her opponent's temples. Twin peaks piercing the ear. He Lingling put up her arms and barely resisted. She felt that Yenjika was stronger than her. Yenjika didn't show any mercy. She suddenly tightened her right leg and kicked at her opponent. He Lingling only had time to wriggle her spine and hurriedly withdraw her leg. Bam! He Lingling's right leg was kicked away, and her lower body became unstable. Her hands tried to regain her center of gravity, and her body swayed. Yenjika took half a step forward, shook her right arm, and punched out, stopping at He Lingling's neck. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Yenjika wins." Yenjika's mind went blank, and then she was hit by great joy, losing her usual gentleness and calmness. She turned around abruptly, looked at Lu Qing, and waved her fist. "I won. I'm of amateur second pin." She didn't know why, but when she saw Lu Cheng's ecstatic expression and waving his fist more excitedly than her, she suddenly thought of a strange sentence in her heart: half of the medal belongs to me, and half to you. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.